it is theology, but that's what people have labeled it. So it's been labeled already. Can't really do much. Now, this is on Medusa, Perseus, Atlantis, Atlas. I do get this out for free. Come on. Oh, you BS. Come on. There we go. I don't want to make this seem like I want to like sell my things. I really don't. This is something that I have been giving out to everyone so that way they can look at it, they can put in their own comments, whatever. It's more about allowing people to have that ability to put their own 2 cents in and send it back or even come on and have a conversation. All right. Here we go. Okay. Medusa, Atlas. No, they can't see over there. They just see me. Perseus and Atlantis. Truth Behind the Myth by Christopher J. Kirchgater, but please call me Gator. Medusa's backstory and origins. Medusa has always been a fascinating topic of mine during my frequent dwellings into my research. From the racial debating to pure wonderment, Medusa crosses into a handful of areas throughout the world. In this session, we'll be going over a collection of tales passed from a variety of cultures and backgrounds to get a clearer understanding and thorough, in-depth look at the mythical slash historical woman. Now, these are all clickable sources. You know what? I might just go ahead and just do this on the phone so that way I can keep track of it this way. There we go. That way I can just get rid of this bubble over here. All right. Makes it much easier. Just all right. So here's the first source link for this from Medusa in general, which of course you'll get down to here. According to Greek mythology, Medusa is the daughter of Phorcys, or Phorcys, the primordial sea god, and Ceto, the primordial sea goddess. In other versions, it's Echnida, the mother of all monsters, Typhon, the father of all monsters. Her siblings include Echnida in some versions, Sephno, Uriel, the Grai, Dino, Dread, Eno, Horror, Finferito, Alarm. I apologize for any and all butcherings of names that I am saying. I do apologize, but I'm trying. Cerberus, three-headed hound, Ladin, the dragon guardian of Atlas's orchard, which will be on the next PDF file that I am now working on. Scalia, the Hesperides, the Nemean lion, and the Sphinx by Ceto's grandson. Now, before we get into the Enuma Elish, this is where this comes from. That entire source comes from Theo.com. Here, the Gorgons, there was 3 powerful winged demons named Medusa, Sephno, and Uriel. Of the 3 sisters, only Medusa was mortal. King Polydectes of Seriphos once commanded the hero Perseus to fetch her head. He accomplished this with the help of the gods who equipped him with the reflective shield, a curved sword, winged boots, and the helm of invisibility. When it fell upon Medusa and decapitated her, the 2 creatures sprang forth from the wound, and the winged horse Pegasus, or Pegasus, and the giant Creosaur. Perseus fled with the monster's head in a sack. This is known as a kibisis. We'll get to that later. And the 2 angry sisters chasing close on his heels. Now, we'll get into that if we need to go back to this source. You have it. It's already there for you. And we're going to get into this. Just a tiny bit, Jonathan. Like, that is yeah, that's like a 60. Thank you, hon. Thank you very much. Now, with this, the Enuma Elish is going to be part of the next topic, which we'll also get into if you are agnostic or even monotheistic. I have this for you as well. This is the Kingdom Interlinear of the Greek Scriptures. So this is something I do carry around, mostly due to the fact of what we are going to talk about in here, because of Hammurabi of Babylon, the sixth king of the Amorites, the first dynasty of Babylon, which if we get to Deuteronomy chapter 2 and 3, which we will, and that's also in a later session, that's for you guys to have. The reason for that, again, read on your own. Now, in other versions, it's Echnida, mother of all monsters, and Typhon, father of all monsters. Her siblings include Echnida in some versions, Sethanon, Uriel, the Garai, Dino, Dread, Eno, Horror, Famfredo, Alarm, Cerberus, the three-headed hound, Ladon, the dragon guardian of Atlas's orchard, Scalia, the Hesperides, the Nemean lion, and the Sphinx by Seto's grandson. Now, in the Babylonian epic, the Enuma Elish, line 123 to 148, Cult of Marduk version found at Ashur, Kish, Ashurnanipal's library at Nineveh, Lunton Tempe, and other excavated sites dated back to circa 1200 BCE during the reign of Hammurabi of Babylon, 1792-1750 BCE, the sixth king of the Amorites, first dynasty of Babylon, which you also find the very same Amorite in Deuteronomy chapter 2 and 3 when they talk about Sihon of Heshbon and King Og of Bashan. Both of these were, well, Sihon of Heshbon was the Amorite king. So there's some correlation with that in general. I'll just let you know about that. But these are giants. But again, I mean, giants don't exist. But yet here we are talking about the sixth Amorite king who took over and gave rise to the cult of Marduk, which, if you want a Bible verse for that, Ezekiel chapter 28, the king of Tyre. So I believe that'd be around 27, I believe. Just go from that, you know. Now, going back to this, that way you can also see it. And for some later context, before we get to this, the whole little thing, the Enuma Elish, also known as the Seven Tablets of Creation, is the Babylonian creation myth, whose title is derived from the opening lines of the piece, When on High. The myth tells the story of the great god Marduk's victory over the forces of chaos and his establishment of order at the creation of the world. Marduk is also known as Utu Samash. He is the sun god. He was also known to be born perfect. Now, for his eyes, for his ears grew large. There's a lot of it goes into this. All the tablets containing the myth, also known as the Enuma Elish, found at Ashur, Kish, Ashurnanipal's library at Nineveh, Lunton Tempe, and other excavated sites dated back to 1200 BCE. Their cloniforms, however, indicate that all these are copies of a much older version of a myth dating long before the reign of Hammurabi of Babylon, 1792-1750 BCE. The king who elevated the god Marduk to the patron deity of Babylon. The poem, in its present form, with Marduk as its champion, is thought to be a revision of an older Sumerian work with Ea, also known as Enki, as the main protagonist. But such is the custom of the Mesopotamian culture that their deity is the strongest deity. That is why Marduk, especially with the cult of Marduk, was given that elevation. As Marduk, the champion of the younger gods, or young gods, in their war against Tiamat. This is the demiurge, the first dragon, the salty bitter water below, with her consort or husband, which was Apsu, the fresh water above the universe. This would be Uranus in Greek mythology and Mother Gaia in Greek mythology. Is of the Babylonian origin. The Sumerian Ea, Enki, or Enlil, is thought to have played the major role in the original version of the story. The copy found at Ashur has the god Asur in the main role, as was the custom of the cities of Mesopotamia. It said that the god of each city was always considered the best and most powerful. Marduk, the god of Babylon, only figures as prominently as he does in the story because most of the copies are found at the Babylonian scribes. Even so, Ea does still play an important role in the Babylonian version of the Enuma Elish by creating human beings. Now, this is also something for you guys to also look up as well. Ea is also known as Ea in the Lakota Sioux from the Black Hills here in South Dakota. He is known as Ea, the creator, also known as Tunkashila or Wankatonka. And the same thing for Maka or Earth is the same for Maka or Nin Maka or Nin Hersog, which is the mother goddess and his wife in the Mesopotamian pantheon, the second Mother Earth symbol after Tiamat. Now we're just going to go down because it just has a revision of it. Go. Oh, commentary. The Enuma Elish would later be the inspiration for the Hebrew scribes for the later works of the biblical book of Genesis. There we go. Prior to the 19th century, the Bible was considered the oldest book in the world, and its narratives were thought to be completely original. In the mid-19th century, however, European museums, as well as the academic and, look at that, religious institutions, sponsored excavations in Mesopotamia to find physical evidence for historical corroboration of the stories in the Bible. So they're looking for the stories, they find these things, but these excavations found quite the opposite, however. In that once cuneiform was translated, it was understood that a number of biblical narratives were Mesopotamian in what? In origin. Now, this is not saying that the Bible is not their own truth. Again, there's a continuation as well as there being a lot of information being taken out. And the reason for that is this is why I have this one here. And believe it or not, I actually left my other Bible out. Now, so I have a blue one of these. And for people who know, I actually had one. You can see this one's not mine. This one's from the Canyon RV and park that we're at. And one thing I want to read about that is I had the Gideon's Holy Bible somehow, and I mean this, I was over in Welch's, Oregon when I bought my fifth wheel trailer when I was doing some research up in Oregon. And I had a Bible just randomly appear in my trailer. Now, there's cameras all over the place. No, no one went into my trailer. There was evidence that no one went into my trailer at all. When I bought the trailer, I did a thorough inspection. I did not see a Bible in there. I called my best friend because I thought he was playing a prank on me. No, he was at work, which is over in freaking Portland at the time. So he was about a good hour and a half away. So there ain't no way this guy put a freaking Bible in it. But when I touched that Bible, I had an immediate feeling to cry. So I will say there is a power to it. I don't really understand it. But I also will say there are things missing out of it, such as the Apocrypha or the non-canonical books of the Bible, which they deem non-canonical because there's no apostolic value to Scripture. But even with this one, which this is Greek scripture to text, which is Keone Greek from the 1st century versus the Gideon's International. So we're going to go to 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16, 17, first and foremost. And there's a reason why I say specifically 2 Timothy And the reason for that is it has to do with my just recent statement. If we can deem that scripture is has no value, then what is the point of saying this verse? Come on, that's Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts. Oh, you're here. Romans, Corinthians. Ah, here you go for a second. There it is. All scripture is breathed out by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in high righteousness, that the man of God may be complete and equipped for every good work. But directly in chapter 4, it goes on and says, I charge you in the presence of God in Christ Jesus, who is to judge the living and the dead, and by his appearing in his kingdom. Preach the word, be ready in season and out of season. Reprove, rebuke, and exhort with complete patience and teaching. For the time is coming when people will not endure sound teaching, but have itching ears. They will accumulate for themselves teachers that suit their own passions, and will turn away from listening to the truth and wander off into myths. Now, I'm glad I have this one here, because I'm going to pull up that specific one back up. Verse 4, chapter 1, 2 Timothy, chapter 4, verse 4. And the reason why I'm saying that is there's a difference in what they say about myth versus what they mean. And I will even pull up here it is. I'm going to pull up the definition for this right after which. Here it is. And they will turn their ears away from the truth, whereas they will be turned aside to false stories. So instead of it being myths, it's false stories. So let's just go ahead and myth definition. We can go with the first one, which is a traditional story, especially one concerning the early history of a people, or explaining some natural or social phenomenon, typically involving supernatural beings or events. I'm not going to sit here and say that the burning bush, the splitting of the freaking Red Sea, and all that nice little jazz did not happen in this book. So if we want to go with that, then yes, this is a myth. Or we're going to go with the second definition, and it says a widely held false belief or an idea, a misconception, a fallacy, a mistaken belief, false notion, misbelief, false stories, a myth. But again, they change what your knowledge is for a reason. Famous stories such as the fall of man and the great flood were originally conceived and written down in Sumer, translated and modified later in Babylon, reworked by the Assyrians before they were used by the Hebrew scribes for the versions which later appear in the Bible. Although the basic paradigm of the biblical narratives and Mesopotamian stories closely align, there are still significant differences noted by scholar Stephen Berkman. You guys can go ahead and read on the rest of that if you want. If you've already had a link or want a link, go ahead and message me personally. I will give you the entire PDF file for free. Again, it is free. I don't ask or charge anything for it. If you have any questions, you have more than enough power to go ahead and make footnotes and send that back to me, or even come back onto this with the entire questions that you have, and I will answer or we'll go through it together. I don't really care. It's about just sharing what we know. Now, going down. Here we go. So you're able to go through, see where it's all at. And we're just going to go skip back to this. There we go. Make battle, avenge them. Reduce to nothingness. Tiamat heard The speech pleased her. She said, "Let us make demons as you have advised." The gods assembled within her. They conceived evil against the gods, their begetters. They and took the side of Tiamat. Stopping right here. This is where they're also saying Lucifer took a third of heaven and rebelled against the God himself. No, it was Tiamat. Fiercely plotting, unresting by night and day, lusting for battle, raging, storming. They set up a host. All right, I'm gonna wait. That's just a little loud. It's all right. No, I muted. I muted it. I muted. Don't worry. I know. I know. Sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have too much noise in the background. Fiercely plotting, unresting by night and day, lusting for battle, raging, storming. He set up a host to bring about conflict. Mother Huber, or if you would, this would be Echnida, or Sita, the mother of all monsters, and the primordial sea goddess. She supplied irresistible weapons and gave birth to giant serpents with poisons. With their sharp, they had sharp teeth. They were merciless. With poison instead of blood, she filled their bodies. She clothed the fearful monsters with dread. She loaded them with an aura and made them godlike. Sethno and Uriel were godlike or demigod. Not demigods. They were godlikes. They were gods or immortal, if you would, from birth. All right. She said, "May their onlooker feebly perish. May they constantly leap forward and never retire." She created the Hydra. Where are you at? The dragon. The hairy hero. Which, that's another thing we'll get over to. The great demon. The savage dog. Cerberus, if you would. The scorpion man. Fierce demons. The fish man and the bull man. Carriers of merciless weapons. Fearless in the face of battle. Her commands were tremendous, not to be resisted, although she made 11 of that kind. Among the gods, her sons, whom she constituted her host, she exalted Kingu and magnified him among them. This is among the Anunnaki, which over here they're known as the Anunnaki, but here in America, or if you would, the indigenous population, they're known as the Star People. Tiamat, Huber, Mother Gaia, Sito or Tito, Echnida in Greek mythology is the mother of Medusa. So the question remains, how can she be the only mortal one in the family? When Medusa was dedicated to the virgin goddess Athena, goddess of wisdom, war, handicraft, and patroness of Athens, she was in Athens, Greece, placing her in the eastern world/hemisphere. Now, mind you, Medusa was banished from her civilization and sent to an island by herself. Now, this is dangerous beauty. I'm a big fan of mythologies, and Greek mythology happens to be one of the favorites in Greek mythology. And one of the most appealing story I found was that of Medusa, the crazy snake lady who turned people into stone until she was stopped by Perseus. Later, she turned people into stone because Perseus told her to. If you watch Clash of Titans, you'll remember, no, we're not going with Clash of the Titans because the Clash of Titans is not exactly accurate at all, because there was no battle between Perseus and Medusa. It was literally just a quick cut off her head, put it in a bag, and I gotta go. Yeah. So, here we go. What we are rarely taught about is how Medusa was made to be Medusa. As one of the Gorgon sisters, she was originally a golden-haired, which we will get over this in a second, fair maiden and beautiful and kind natured. Medusa devoted herself to a life of celibacy in the name of her goddess Athena. However, despite her origins of beauty, Medusa's name quickly became synonymous with malevolence, hatred, and monstrosity. Medusa was a priestess to the goddess Athena, the virgin goddess of wisdom and battle. One requirement to be a priestess for Athena is that the young women should be a virgin and give their life to the goddess. One day Poseidon, or Neptune, the god of the sea, and rival to Athena, saw Medusa and was mesmerized. But Medusa, being a loyal priestess to the goddess, rejected him. And what does he do about it? Her, of course, in case you guys are going to ban me, I can't really say certain words on here, so I don't want to get a freaking warning. And decided to humiliate Athena by honoring the priestess on the steps of Athena's temple. Poseidon vanished after what he was done, and Medusa was vulnerable and weak. There are other versions of this story where there actually was a mutual thing about this. It's harder to find those than it is to find the ones that just portray everything as horrible. But it would make a little bit more sense considering the fact that Medusa had her pregnancy blocked by Athena, which would not make sense if it was R, because why would you keep her from having the children if it was non consensual? If it was consensual, however, I would understand the curse and the blocking of giving birth to her children from her rival god. I can understand. Because, like, you took a vow to me for a life of celibacy, and then you consensually screwed my rival on the steps of my temple and got pregnant. So, screw you having birth. You're going to have that blocked, and you're going to be banished from civilization. That makes more sense than them just cursing them for no reason. Then again, these are the Greek gods, so they've done things for a lot less. So I mean, I may be just stretching this a little bit too much. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. There's multiple versions of this story, multiple different aspects, multiple. It's just like with the Perseus thing we'll get into in a minute. You'll see what I mean. Now, again, it does. Here it is. Medusa prayed to Athena for guidance and forgiveness. After all, in those days, the gods claimed their mates as their partner forever, and Medusa was now Poseidon's wife. Athena looked down in anger and cursed Medusa for betraying her. Medusa was sent to a faraway island and was cursed so that no man would want her. She was given cracked skin, madness, and her signature snake hair and stone eyes. Medusa was now a monster woman. But that would not make sense because A, her sisters were Gorgons from birth and were in human form and were in Athena's temple with her the time of her freaking rape or and so on and so forth. Now, mind you, she was banished from her civilization and sent to an island by herself. Okay. It's also good. Anyone who took one step on her island were marked now for the death at the hands of Gorgon Medusa. Now, this is actually another thing I'd like to point out because of what they talk about on here. Usamini. The term Usamini or Osamini from the ancient Greek, the inhabited world, denoted the known inhabited or habitable world. In Greek antiquity, it referred to the portions of the world known to the Hellenic geographers, subdivided into three continents: Africa, Europe, and Asia. Notice right there, it does not mention the Western Hemisphere at all. Please understand that. Under the Roman Empire, it came to refer to civilization itself, as well as the secular and religious imperial administration. Here's how the maps used to look like. This is what it was. Now, here's the Pillars of Heracles. Pillars of Heracles. The Egyptians, which we're also going to be talking about later down this one with Atlantis and Atlas. All right. Now, don't get this mixed up with this, the Atlas Range, which is actually given to Atlas, son of Poseidon, who was also given the Atlantic Ocean on his birth, but controlled Morocco, Algeria, and Libya, but ancient Libya, which was all of this, which was ancient Mauritania, which we'll also get into later. Now, mind you, his brother, which he controlled all of this, his brother was given the extremity of the land, which at that point was Atlantis, which was carved out with northern mountain ranges and all this, and was given the extremity of that land towards the Pillars of Heracles. Now, mind you, again, this is not taking away from what people think because Atlantis was in the middle of the ocean. Not taking that away at all because it was. But after the fact, it became an impassable mud shoal, meaning dry land. We'll get to that later, though. And slideshow 4.4 and 5 shows Usamini in its raw form. It shows that you can read a myth at face value and be able to trace a location, i.e. Troy, which was found in Turkey in 1871, ancient Asia Minor. And most of you are going to say, no, that's not possible. Troy was never found. It's still an ancient city. It's a mythical city that was found in the Odyssey and the Iliad because it was a 7-year war. Well, not exactly. When legends become myth, what do? You keep the legend. All right, it's the same thing with Paul Revere and everything else. Now, the British Museum held the first major exhibition in Britain on Troy from March 21st, 2019 to March 8, 2020. I'm going to butcher this. The Uttagran scholars had a chance to visit it on Sunday, February 16th. We were lucky to have listened to Dr. Andrew Chaplin explain the exhibition to us at the Uttagran House 2 days before, which gave us a deep insight onto this grand project. This exhibition, I don't even think I'm pronouncing that right at all. Presents objects mostly from the British Museum's own collection, as well as loans from the Ashmoleum Museum, the National Museum of Denmark, and 100 loans from Berlin. Upon entering this exhibition, or I swear I'm not pronouncing that right. We were struck by the modern painting of Tom Wade made with oil, chalk, and graphite in 1962. It represents Achilles' vengeance over Hector's killing of Patroclus. The striking painting gave us a hint of what to expect. Okay, I'm just going to skip past most of this. Sorry, I do apologize. I want to just get down to where it was, kind of like how they found it for a second. I don't want to read this whole thing for you guys because you guys can do that on yourself. Again, this is a PDF file that gives you clickable sources. Everything that I'm reading to you is everything that I've used on my PDF file. So this is not just me pulling it out of my arse just to be able to present this to you guys right now. You know, here it is. The next section showed original notebooks, drawings, photographs, and the first finds from Calvert and Skillman's excavations in the 1870s. Not 1970s, not 2000s, 1870s. And the 1890s. After learning about Skillman's excavation experiences, we dove into a new corner exhibiting I am not pronouncing that right, I swear to gosh. Exhibition, exhibiting, I don't know. I swear I'm pronouncing that wrong. Objects which shed light on the complicated timeline of Troy, an artificial mound which made a settlement upon settlement, inhabited uninterruptedly for circa 4,300 years, from circa 3000 BC until 1300 AD. Or if you would, CE, Common Era. Now, mind you, again, this is just to give you a late one. That was found over in 1870, but yet people are still told to this day it's nothing more than a fictional city, a myth that has no factual evidence on itself. That's what we're usually teaching the kids. At least that's what I was taught when I was growing up, at least. All right, and I was in school from what, 2005 to 2015. Now, mind you, I did graduate early because I did go to Job Corps, but that's on by itself. Now, Nagas. This is going to be getting into different religions, like I said, a variety of cultures and backgrounds, so don't hurt it, okay? Want you guys to remember we're going to go back to slideshow 3.3 right after this. Naga in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, a member of a class of mythical, semi-divine beings, half human and half cobra. All right, that's one form right there. Those are also known as lamias. They are a strong and handsome species who can assume either wholly human or wholly serpentine form. So that's three forms, okay? Shapeshifters, and are potentially dangerous and but often beneficial to humans. The Gorgons or Gorgons, who are beyond the famous stream of Oceanus, this is the Atlantic Ocean now, live in the utmost place towards night by the singing Hesperides. They are Sethano, Uriel, and Medusa, whose fate is a sad one, for she was mortal. But the other two, immortal and ageless both alike. So we're going to go back to slideshow 3.3 second. Here we go. Going back to this, Mother Huber, who forms everything, supplied irresistible weapons and gave birth to giant serpents. They had sharp teeth. They were merciless with poison instead of blood. She filled their bodies. She clothed the fearful monsters with dread. She loaded them with an aura and made them godlike, semi-divine. Now, as the geography became more accurate, Oceanus came to represent the Atlantic Ocean, which also was called the Ocean Sea. Here we go. So beyond the famous stream of Oceanus, so all of this, which no person, no mortal man went past the Pillars of Heracles, which was right here. Okay? Here's the Temple of Athena in Athens, Greece, which is on the whole eastern side of the world. All right. No. I want a quick recap. I want to open this. Medusa, famous monster figure in Greek mythology. Just skip past that. Here's the one I was talking about. Greek mythology is known for its many fearsome beasts, such as the. I'm not even gonna try on that one. I'm sorry. I don't. Yep. Speaking of, I can learn. I mean, I do have the Greek alphabet right here. All right, all of them, which has the transliteration and pronunciation of it. I'm not joking. It's got that right back here. This is what I like about this Bible, but this is Keone Greek, so I'm hoping it goes with that. So, like I said, I am learning other languages while I'm studying and doing this. It may not be the normal way of people doing it anymore. I like by apps and all this. I'm just doing it the way scholars did it back in the day by hunting down information and having to figure out, okay, I have to learn this and that. Okay. One of the most popular monsters of Greek mythology is Medusa. She was a beautiful maiden with golden hair. Second time this is coming up with the same freaking details of what she looks like. So, golden hair. Now, again, this is why I say there's racial debates about this because many people say that her snakes were just cornrows and that she was black and that she was purely African. Well, yes and no. One, because she has pure white milky skin, which is right there. All right. Her once lovely hair morphed into poisonous, dangerous snakes. Her pure white milky skin, which does not mean she was Caucasian, because I'm sorry, is this milky white? I'm sorry, or does this look like peach to you? All right, this is peach, or as a person who I've seen online say, we're all shades of wheat. All right, we're all just different shades of wheat. Not one of us is white milky. Now, what you will find though is over in the Hindu, the Buddhist, and Taoist traditions, and also the Jainism, especially with these Nagas, is you'll find them all having that white milky skin, which, if I remember correctly, is the reason why they have their makeup to resemble what the gods look like, that nice white tonage. So, take it as you will. This is just an amateur researcher going off of what he is seeing all over the place. So, turned to a scary green hue, and then she roamed, shamed, shunned, and loathed by everyone. That's Athena's curse. Anyone she looked upon turned to stone. But this is what I was talking about. She was vowed to be celibate her entire life as a priestess to Athena until she fell in love with Poseidon and she went against her vow and married him. So, is it non consensual? Was it consensual? And this is what I was talking about. Like, so if it was a consensual marriage and they did that, not only did she go against her vow against Athena, boom, that is a lifelong commitment. She then does it on and in her temple on the steps in front of all of it. So guests and all them people can just show up, see everything. Like that is some messed up stuff right there. So yes, I would actually say that curse, that's justified. That's early justified, very justified right there. Now, as for the whole African thing, still technically correct because she's also known in Moroccan, or if you would, no, I think it was Moroccan, like the Mari people. They were, I'll have to remember where it was. She was known to be able to lead people into battle, but I believe it was, yes, I believe it was Morocco. Separated from her sisters and unable to find love, Medusa wandered through the African desert. As she traveled, some of the serpents in her hair, which again was morphing at this time, fell to the ground and slid away. Legends say this is why so many of the desert areas in that region have so many snakes today. Now, mind you, she was in Athens, Greece, and she is now cursed from she's banished from civilization, which is the common thing that we see. But now she's wandering to the western edges of the world because she's in the African desert at this point. But she is turning more and more into a monster as she is going. And I want you to remember, she is alive. Okay? She is alive at this point. But after her death, Perseus immediately left to fight Atlas. Though the Titan was a worthy opponent, Perseus stood in the middle of the sky, which we'll get to because he has what he has for items and equipment, turned Medusa's head towards him, and Atlas attempted to fight but saw her head and was turned to stone. Perseus then headed to Ethiopia. Okay, so Ethiopia is in the eastern part of Africa, and Atlas is in the west. So, where did Perseus fly from that Medusa was in the ocean and he had to go over there to go find her, fight her, chop her head off, fight Atlas, and then go back to Ethiopia before going back to Greece, yeah, Seraphos, and all that crap. So I want you to kind of remember that. Now, Ethiopia to rest and set her head down on the ground. The blood from her head slowly found its way to the Red Sea, where it formed the basis of the red coral seen there today. Her blood also led to the creation of the venomous vipers that roam the Sahara. Second collaboration from what they just said. The Amphibiania, I'm butchering that, more than likely, came from her blood too. This creature had a snake on the end of its tail and the body of a dragon. Now, mind you, that's two different depictions. The first one has her leaving the Eastern Hemisphere after being cursed by Athena after either her consensual marriage with Poseidon or her non-consensual communion with Poseidon. Either way, you have both versions of the story. Now, she was banished from civilization. Based off of that, that was Usamini, which was Africa, Europe, and Asia. So while she was still alive, she was trying to get away from that area, from civilization itself, because no one was able to get around her. She was going to turn everyone to stone. She was a monster at this point. So at this point, where can she go except here on this quick recap again? She was the only mortal supposedly in the family of the gods and primordials. Her mother, either Ceto or Exnita, and sisters, Sethno and Uriel, are Gorgons from birth and immortal from birth. Sethno and Uriel also served Athena, virgin goddess of wisdom, war, and handicraft, and the patroness of Athens and Athens, Greece. But when Medusa was cursed, they had human forms. See slideshow 6.3, slide 7. After Perseus with the necessary items, all versions have the same items, but sometimes changes who gives them to him. He flew to the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, to the rocky island of Sarpedon and put the Gorgons asleep. But where? She wandered through Africa after being cursed in Athens, Greece, but her location became unknown to any man. Now we'll get a little bit back with Perseus. Everyone can look up Perseus, we're just going to pass on that. Perseus was the son of Zeus and Danae, grandson of King Acrisius of Argos. They lived on the island of Seriphos after an oracle foretold that Perseus would kill his grandfather and was thrown into the sea. In Greek folk etymology, connected Perseus to the name of the Persian people. Mind you, this is an entirely different culture, but they're related, whom they called the Persai or Old Persian Parsa. Well, I'm just not even butchering. I'm butchering that probably. A Persian. However, the native name of the Persians, Parsa in Persian, has always been pronounced with an A. Herodotus recounts the story devising a foreign son of Andromeda and Perseus, from whom the Persians took the name. There's also a different version where it comes out that who all Persian kings are descended from to this day. When Perseus was grown, Polydectes came to lust after the beautiful Danae. Perseus believed Polydectes was less than honorable and protected his mother from him. Then Polydectes plotted to send Perseus away in disgrace. He held a large banquet where each guest was expected to bring a gift. Polydectes requested that the guests bring horses, under the pretense that it was collecting contributions for the hand of Hippodamia, daughter of Eunomonos. Perseus had no horse to give, so he asked Polydectes to name the gift. He would not refuse it. Polydectes held Perseus to his rash promise and demanded the snake-haired Medusa's head. Now here is my own little thing for this. I had to kind of crop all this, get it together. So here's Argos. Polydectes threw them into the casket into the sea, and they just drifted all the way here to Seriphos. Mind you, in a casket, no rowing, no sailing, no nothing, and they just drifted to here. Love that. Before setting out on his quest, Perseus prayed to the gods, and Zeus answered by sending two of his other children, Hermes and Athena, to bless their half-brother with the weapons needed to defeat Medusa. Hermes gave Perseus his own pair of winged sandals to fly, and lent him his harp sword. This is one of those sickle swords to slay Medusa with, and the Hades helm of darkness to become invisible with. Athena lent Perseus her polished shield for him to view Medusa's reflection without becoming petrified, and gave him a kibisis, a knapsack to safely contain the Gorgon's head, which was the goddess warned, could still petrify even in death. Lastly, Athena instructed Perseus to seek out the Graii, the Gorgon's sisters, for the snake-haired woman's whereabouts. In other versions, it was the northern nymphs who gave Perseus the weapons after he sought out the Graii. On the island of Sarpedon, Perseus came across a cave where Sethno and Uriel and Medusa were sleeping. Using Athena's reflective shield, Perseus overcame the looking taboo and walked into the cave backwards, safely observing and approaching the sleeping Gorgons. With Athena guiding her sword, Perseus beheaded Medusa, and from Medusa's neck sprang her two children with Poseidon, the winged horse Pegasus, he who sprang, and the giant Creosaur, sword of gold. To avenge their sister's death, Sethno and Uriel flew after Perseus, but he escaped them by wearing Hades' invisibility helmet. From here, he proceeded to visit King Atlas, who had refused him hospitality. In revenge, Perseus petrified him with Medusa's head, and King Atlas became the Atlas Mountains. Now, don't get this mixed up with the ones you'll find over in Morocco. It's not those Atlas Mountains. You'll see in a minute. Give me a second, I need something to drink. All right. Now, again, another clickable source. There you go. Wedding gift. There he is. So this is what I'm talking about. The Grai were three gray-haired women who lived in a cave and shared a single eye and a tooth among them. When one of them was about to give the eye and the tooth to the others, Perseus grabbed them and blackmailed the Grai to aid him. Having no choice but to oblige, the Grai informed Perseus that he should go and visit certain nymphs of the north, who not only knew the location of the Gorgons, but also owned winged sandals and ekibuses, something akin to a magic impenetrable bag. Upon arriving among the hospitable nymphs, Perseus learned that the elves kept possession of an even more precious item, Hades' cap of invisibility. Equipped with all the necessary pieces, Perseus slung the bag, the ekibuses, about him, fitted the sandals to his ankles, and put the cap on his head. Wearing it, he saw whom he pleased, but was not seen by others. And having received also from Hermes an adamantine sickle, yes, the metal that is inside Wolverine in freaking DC Comics, is a real metal that was used by freaking Perseus and the gods. Who would have known? And then again, apparently adamantium just fell out of the freaking sky. So, yeah. He flew to the ocean. Okay, remember, it was the Atlantic Ocean that they were in. So he flew to the ocean, not the Mediterranean Sea that was known as an ocean. Well, again, we'll get to that. But the real ocean. Tiptoeing, he approached Medusa, the only one of the three Gorgons who was mortal, all the while carefully gazing at the reflection of the monster in Athena's bronze shield. Guided by the goddess, Perseus raised the sickle, okay, violently and struck off Medusa's head. To his utter amazement, a golden sworded soldier, and a winged horse sprung out of her neck. Medusa's two unborn children, conceived during her union with the sea god Poseidon at the time when she was still a beautiful mortal, fully aware that Medusa's head was still potent, Perseus quickly thrust it into his magical bag. Using the power of his winged sandals, managed to escape the golden wing Gorgons, who disgruntledly returned to the lair to mourn their sister. To emulate the sound of this lament, Athena invented the music of the double pipe, the adios. So that's where that comes in. Now, again, this is on his way back to Seriphos. He then encounters the Titan Atlas. So he was in the middle of the ocean, found them on Sarpedon, killed her, flew back, went from there. What are we missing? Because there's something in there in the missing. I know you guys are probably thinking that now. There's something that they're not telling us. You're correct. Okay? So we just read that. Now, starting with the P. Ovidus Naso Metamorphosis, Book 4, line 604, Perseus, Atlas, and Andromeda. There you go. This is where you'll get to. You can actually get to the right one right here. The fortune of their grandson Bacchus gave great comfort to them, as the god adorned and conquered India by Achaia, praised in stately temples. But Acrisius, the son of Abas, of the Canbian race, remained to banish Bacchus from the walls of Argos, and to lift up hostile arms against that deity, who he denied was born to Jove. He would not even grant that Perseus from the loins of Jupiter was god of Danny and the showering gold. So mighty is the hidden power of truth, Acrisius soon laminated that affront to Bacchus, that ever he refused to own his grandson. For the one achieved high heaven, and the other, as he bore the viperous monster head on sounding wings, hovered a conqueror in the fluent air over sands, Libyan, where the Gorgon head dropped clots of gore that quickening on the ground became unnumbered serpents, fitting to cause the curse with vipers that infested land. Now, we are going to remember this. Where the Gorgon head dropped clots of gore that quickening on the ground became unnumbered serpents, fitting to cause the curse of vipers that infested land. Why is that so important right now? Well, remember Oceania, which was the inhabited or denoted civilization, which was Africa, Europe, and Asia. They have no idea about the Western Hemisphere whatsoever. Okay? That's why I'm saying that. Thence wafted by the never constant winds through boundless latitudes, now here, now there, as flits of vapor cloud in dizzy flight, down looking from the lofty skies on earth, removed far, so compassed he the world. 3 times did he behold the frozen bears. Times thrice his gaze was on the crag's bent arms. No. Okay. About 2,000 years ago. Okay? So, one thing about that going on top. Come on, you bastard. So, about 2,000 years ago. Okay? It's about the same. Around 2,000 years ago, the Tropic of Cancer was in the constellation Cancer in the Northern Hemisphere. So, around the time that Perseus, when mind you, he was the king of Macedon with Andromeda, okay? He was king, but at this point, Tropic of Cancer and the constellation of Cancer was in fact in line with each other. So, when 3 times did he behold the frozen bears, and times thrice with his gaze on the crab's bent arms. So you're saying when you look for, let's see, polar bears, the Arctic Circle. Primary areas of sea ice including Canada, Alaska, Greenland, Russia, and Norway. So they have to be in the northern area. So that means he is somewhere in the northern area right here. But then, let me just pull this up by the, and you guys see that? Okay, so mind you, any of this that you guys are going for, you guys can see all of this. Okay, I'm gonna add one more thing up on here. I gotta have to. It's gonna pull up Google Earth. Then I gotta add this source to it. There we go. Okay. Thankfully, we're going to be able to hide some of the sources here and there. Come on. Things a little slow sometimes. Let me add the source. Thank you. Bastard. There we are. Okay. So, just going to pull it up the way I needed to. So, going with that. So, 3 times did he behold the frozen bears. Times thrice was his gaze on the crab's bent arm. So, somehow, some way, he went from killing Medusa in the middle of the freaking Atlantic Ocean. Then on his way back, through boundless latitudes, now here, now there, splits a vapor cloud in a dizzy flight, down looking from the lofty skies on earth. So compassed he the world. 3 times did he behold the frozen bears, which are found only in these areas, the northern areas, Greenland, Norway, Canada, Alaska, Russia, all this area is right here, right? But times thrice was his gaze on the crab's bent arms, which was little over 2,000 years ago, which even in Roman exhibitions, definitions and terms, cancer is crab in Roman slash Latin. So now you have the constellation or tropic of Cancer, now shifting to the west, now to the east. How often changes course? Time came when day declining, he began to fear the night, by which he stopped his flight far in the west, the realm of Atlas. So we're just going to go back over here for a second. We're going to hide that source. We're going to go back over to here. So if he is now in the realm of Atlas, right? Where he sought repose till Lucifer might call Aurora's fires, Aurora's chariot of the day. There dwelt huge Atlas, vaster than a race of man, son of Iapis. His lordly sway extended over those extreme domains and over oceans that command their waves, to take the panting courses of the sun and bade the weary chariot of the day. Now, again, why did I pull up? Where was this? Celestials. Okay. Whether this be the AI overview. Here you go. Atlas was condemned to stand at the western edge of the earth near the Hesperides, mind you, near the Hesperides, where he was tasked to hold up the sky or the celestial spear upon his shoulders. In later traditions, Herodotus, including Atlas with the Atlas associated Atlas with the Atlas Mountains in North Africa, suggesting the sky rested atop the mountain range. Now, yes and no. So again, the western edge of the earth to hold up the sky on his shoulders. What does he look like? What does he look like at all? There is some extra stuff. Well, we'll just get this nice little imagery coming up and going. Often depicted as a bearded man with the celestial spear upon his shoulders, holding up the sky. This is what he does. We've also done bodybuilding uh, positions or postures to replicate such things. Now, for him, 1,000 flocks, 1,000 herds, overwandered pasture fields, and neighbor tribes might none disturb that land. A glint with gold, bright leaves adorned the trees. Rout's golden wrought bare apples of pure gold. And Perseus spoke to Atlas, O my friend, if thou art moved to hear the story of a noble race, the author of my life is Jupiter, and valiant deeds perhaps are thy delights. Mine may deserve thy praise. Behold of thee kind treatment I implore, a place of rest. But Atlas, mindful of an oracle sent by Themis, a Parnassian, told recalled these words: O Atlas, mark the day a son of Jupiter shall come to spoil, and when thy trees been stripped of golden fruit, the glory shall be his. Fearful of this, Atlas had built solid walls around his orchard, and secured a dragon huge, and kept perpetual guard, and thence expelled all strangers from his land. Wherefore he said, Begone, the glory of your deeds is all pretense. Even Jupiter will fail your need. With that he added force and strove to drive the hesitating alien from his doors, who pled reprieve or threatened with bold words, although he dared not to rival Atlas's might. Perseus made this reply: For that, my love, you hold in light esteem, let this be yours. He said no more, but turning his own face, he showed upon his left Medusa's head, abhorrent features. Atlas, huge and vast, becomes a mountain. Now, pay very close attention to this because it's not the Atlas Mountains, because there's no reason why One mountain range would not have the details that this is giving you. His great beard and hair are forts, his shoulders and hands, mountainous ridges, his head the top of a high peak, his bones are changed to rocks. Augmented on all sides, enormous height attains his growth. For so ordained it, ye almighty gods, who now the heavens expand, unnumbered stars on him command to rest. They are not exactly lying when they say that the Atlas Mountains does hold up the sky. They are not lying about that, but they are putting more fallacies in the story than giving more truth. They want you to believe one thing over. So yes, that's where the Gorgon head dropped lots of gore. Now, Ihadir, I am going to more commonly referred to as Snake Island, is an island off the coast of Brazil in the Atlantic Ocean. The island became famous for its abundant snakes, hence the name Snake Island. It is administered as part of the municipality of the it's in Hiram in the state of São Paulo. I am probably butchering a lot of that. I am sorry. The island is small, with an area of only 43 hectares. I am butchering that, or 106 acres. It has a temperate climate. Its terrain varies from bare rock to rainforest. The island is the only natural home, mind you, the only natural home of the critically endangered venomous Bothrops insularis, or the golden lancehead pit viper, probably butchered that too, which has a diet of birds. The snakes became trapped on the island thousands of years ago following the end of the Ice Age when rising ocean levels disconnected the island from the mainland. The ensuing evolutionary pressure allowed the snakes to adapt to the new environments, increasingly rapidly in population and rendering the island dangerous to public visitation. Located approximately 21 miles off of the coast of São Paulo, Brazil, the island is approximately 43,000 square meters or 106 acres in area, in a range and elevation from 0 to 206 meters or 676 feet above sea level. It has a temperate climate that is similar to its neighboring island Emir. Rainforest covers 0.25 kilometers or 62 acres of the island, with the remaining area consisting of barren rock and open grassland. Here is Snake Island for itself. And this is where I place the death place of Medusa. Because where the Gorgon head dropped clots of gore that quickening underground became unnumbered serpents, fitting to cause the curse with vipers that infested land. The death place in accordance with the Piovitus Nasa Metamorphosis Book 4. Then Perseus flew to the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and caught the Gorgons asleep on the rocky island of Sarpedon. Thence wafted by the never constant winds, yada yada yada. It goes through this. At this point in time, from the 5th century BCE Hellenic geographers to the Roman 8th century Ovidus Naso, Usamini was the known world, which was Africa, Asia, I need to fix that, and Europe, see slide 4.45. Perseus was given winged sandals to fly to the location of the Gorgons in Oceanus, modern-day Atlantic Ocean, or in the midst of it on the rocky island of Sarpedon. After killing Medusa, Perseus saw the frozen bears, polar bears only found in northern areas, i.e. Alaska, Canada, Russia, Greenland, and Norway, and the crab's bent arms. Cancer is one of the 12 constellations of the zodiac and is located in the northern celestial hemisphere. Its old astronomical symbol is, its name is Latin for crab and is commonly represented as 1. So the question remains, where did Perseus go to slay Medusa, saw both the polar bears in the northern regions and the Cancer crab constellation 3 separate times, only to come to the west realm of Atlas? Again, Snake Island. That is where. And here's how. Going again that the Tropic of Cancer and the crab constellation was in fact at the same exact time period that Perseus was tasked to go there. 1 second. Oh, just trying to figure out where we're at. Versus the Tropic of Capricorn, which is in the southern hemisphere, it again says northern hemisphere. That is again to back up and collaborate the polar bears and the cancer to crab. Now again, verb for to gaze is a third person present. Gaze is a past tense. Gaze past particle. Gaze for noun and present particle or for gazing. Look steadily or intently, especially in admiration, surprise, or thought. So you can only gaze at her in astonishment. Okay. Now, this is Atlas, son of Poseidon, and Atlantis. Down a little bit more. Give me a second. There we go. Hey, the storm came in. Okay. Sorry about that. Family was trying to get a hold of me, and looks like someone was trying to figure out where we were at. So that's interesting. All right. Okay. Atlas, son of Poseidon, and Atlantis. They are a combo item because they are the same. Now, yes. I'm sorry. There we go. And the reason why I say they are one of the same is because Atlas was the first king of Atlantis and slash king of Mauritania. However, modern day Mauritania is a little bit less than it's actually south from there. Son of Poseidon, according to Plato, the first king of Atlantis was also named Atlas, but that Atlas was a mortal son of Poseidon. An humorist origin of Atlas was a legendary Atlas, king of Mauritania, an expert astronomer. Now, Mauritania, there you go, you guys can see this as well. Here's a map, which is also on my source link. You guys can actually see this, which was a Spanish map that they did find. This is everything that they got. Ancient Mauritania. Now, is a Latin name for a region in ancient Maghreb. I'm probably butchering that too. It extended from the present day Algeria to the Atlantic, encompassing the northern present day Morocco, and from the Mediterranean in the north of the Atlas Mountains. Sorry, it was the Berbers. Its native inhabitants of Berber ancestry were known to the Romans as the Mari or Malasi. Probably butchering that too. Mauritania takes its name from the ancient Berber kingdom and later Roman province of Mauritania, and thus ultimately from the Mari people, even though the respective territories do not overlap. Historical Mauritania being considerably further north than modern day Mauritania. I want to make sure you guys still see this and me. Now, the Eye of the Sahara was first identified in the 1950s from aerial photographs, leading to the ongoing studies by geologists until as recently as 2008. Now, just like what happened with Troy, where they found it in 1870 and didn't really tell us because they want to keep the legend, but they'll do ongoing studies, this is where this will lead into. Their latest study explained that the ridges and valleys we see today are formed by differential erosion of alternating hard and soft rock layers, uplifted as a dome by the underlying alkaline igneous complex of the Cretaceous age. Alternating layers of hard and soft rock allowed the sea to erode the soft rock faster, forming a bay but leaving hard rock sticking out, known as the headland. The alternating rate of erosion of hard and soft rock is known as differential erosion. So, science is now backing this up, okay? But here's the history and mythological presence for this. Again, here is the Atlas Mountains, along with the old Spanish maps of what they were, the Atlas birthplace, etc. Atlantis, however, is a fictional island mentioned in Plato's works Timaeus and Critias as part of the allegory of the hubris of nations. In the story, Atlantis is described as a naval empire that ruled all western parts of the known world. Again, this is Usamini, the known world, which was Africa, Europe, and Asia, making it the literal or literary counter image of the Achaemenid Empire. After an ill-fated attempt to conquer ancient Athens, Atlantis falls out of favor with the deities and submerges into the Atlantic Ocean. The only primary resources for Atlantis are Plato's dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. All other mentions of the island are based on them. The dialogues claim to quote Solon, who visited Egypt between 590 and 580 BCE. They state that he translated Egyptian records of Atlantis. Plato introduced the Atlantis in the Timaeus, written in 360 BCE. Now, the reason why this is also important is because we also have the Great Alexander Library that was in Egypt, that was burned down. And we had how many of thousands of years of records just destroyed. Now, here is a paragraph of where it comes from. Let's see if I did not get that source link on there, I don't think. For it is related in our records how once upon a time your state stayed the course of a mighty host, which starting from a distant point in the Atlantic Ocean, was instantly advancing to attack the whole of Europe and Asia to boot. For the ocean there was at that time navigable, for in front of the mouth of which you Greeks call, as you say, the Pillars of Heracles, there lay an island which was larger than Libya and Asia together, and it was possible for the travelers of that time to cross from it to the other islands, and from the islands to the whole of the continent over against them, which encompasses that veritable ocean. For all that we have here, lying within the mouth of what we speak, is evidently a haven, having a narrow entrance, but that yonder is a real ocean, and the land surrounding it may most rightly be called, in the fullest, truest sense, a continent. Now, in this island of Atlantis, there existed a confederation of kings of great and marvelous power, which held sway over all the island and over many other islands and also other parts of the continent. According to the Critias, the Hellenic deities of old, this is going with the Mesopotamians' pantheon as well. We'll go with that because it was Ea, Enki, who took the sea. All right. The Hellenic deities of old divided the land so that each deity might have their own lots. Enlil was given the land, the earth. Ea was given the sea, and Anu was given the sky. So that is Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon right there in Greek versions. Poseidon was appropriately and to his liking bequeathed the island of Atlantis. The island was larger than ancient Libya and Asia Minor combined, but it was later sunk by an earthquake and became an impassable mud shoal, inhibiting travel to any part of the ocean. Plato asserted that the Egyptians described Atlantis as an island consisting mostly of mountains in the northern portions, along the shore and encompassing a great plain in an oblong shape in the south, extending in one direction 3,000 stadia, about 345 miles. But across the center island, it was about 2,000 stadia, or 230 miles. 50 stadia, 6 miles from the coast, was a mountain that was low on all sides, broke it off all around about. The central island itself was about 5 stadia in diameter. Now, these right here, these will come into play. In Plato's metaphorical tale, Poseidon fell in love with Selito, the daughter of Evenor and Leucippe, I'm butchering his name, who bore him 5 pairs of male twins. The eldest of these, Atlas, was made rightful king of the entire island and the ocean, called the Atlantic Ocean in his honor. So, and was given the mountain of his birth, the Atlas Mountains, and the surrounding areas his fiefdom. This is now European, like baron, baroness, kingship. They hold the area that is their fiefdom. This is their land. Atlas's twin, Garudelius, or Emilius in Greek, was given the extremity of the island toward the Pillars of Heracles. The other four pairs of twins, Amphires and Amphimon, Emenius and Autotechon, Emma, Elisippus, and Mestar, and Azelus and Diaprepus, were also given rule over many men and over a large territory. Now Poseidon carved the mountain where his love dwelt and enclosed it with three circular rings. Now, mind you, I'm actually just going to read this out while I do this for you guys. So let me do you a favor. I'm going to get this one up, close that one out. For you guys. Okay, there we go. Directly making that north. There we go. Getting there. All right, so let's read this from the top. Poseidon carved the mountain where his love dwelt into a palace and enclosed it with three circular moats and of increasing width. So let's just kind of just get all of this. Varying from 1 to 3 stadia and separated by rings of land proportional in size, the Atlanteans then built bridges northward from the mountain, making a route to the rest of the island. They dug a great canal to the sea and alongside the bridges carved tunnels into the rings of rock so that ships could pass into the city around the mountain. They carved docks and from the rock walls of the moats. Every passage to the city was guarded by gates and towers, and the walls surrounded each ring of the city. The walls were constructed of red, white, and black rock quarried from the moats, and they were covered with brass, tin, and precious or calicum, respectively. Now, according to the Critias, 9,000 years ago, before the lifetime of a war took place between those outside the Pillars of Heracles at the Straits of Gibraltar and those who dwelt within them. The Atlanteans had conquered parts of Libya and within the Pillars of Heracles as far as Egypt and over the European continent as far as Tyrrhenia, and had subjugated its people to slavery. The Athenians led the alliance of resistors against the Atlantean Empire, and the alliance disintegrated, prevailed alone against the empire, liberating the occupied lands. But afterwards there occurred violent earthquakes and floods, and in a single day and night of misfortune all of your warlike men in a body sank into the earth. And the island of Atlantis in like manner disappeared into the depths of the sea, for which the reason in those for the reason the sea in those parts is impassable and impenetrable because there is a shoal of mud in the way, and this was caused by the subsidence of the island. Now, this is where it comes down to, just making sure you guys remember that. I'm going to go back. Here it is again. Just going to point this out right here. Move that around. Yeah. Turn that over. Yeah. Now that's going southeast. south, well, going completely southeast, going down with this. Now, the Hellenic deities of old, Poseidon took it to his landing, bequeathed the island of Atlantis, ancient Libya, and Asia Minor combined, later struck by an earthquake and became an impassable mud shoal, inhibiting travel to any part of the ocean. Now, Plato asserted that the Egyptians described Atlantis as an island consisting of mountains, mostly in the northern region. Here's north right here. This is now southeast, looking this way where we're at. But notice that all of this right here is all mountain ranges right here. This is all mountains. And along the shore and encompassing a great plain in an oblong shape in the south, extending in one direction about 345 miles. And the center island was 2,000 stadia, but now from the coast was a mountain that was low on all sides, broke it off all around about. The central island itself was about 5 stadia in diameter. So we're just going to go around. So this is all the northern facing, northern mountains everywhere around it. But as we get over, you'll see that there is a low mountain range right over here that does break off all around about, all around. But what's even more interesting about this is, I believe it's right here, or no, it's right here. That there are remnants of a city long embedded into the area. Gotta make sure I'm looking at the right area for a second. So if I remember correctly, it is right here somewhere. I believe it's right here, or it's on that side over here. Nope, it's further up. So I'm kind of making some time out of this. There is remnants I've been finding. Just can't remember the exact. I should have put a pinpoint on that. Should have done that pinpoint. Where did I fucking see you guys at? I'll find it later and show you guys later. So I know I saw it over here somewhere. Oh yeah. Anyway, getting back to this, the oblong shape, which extended 345 miles out. I did do the calculation on that. Oh yeah, that's right. It's gotta be over. It's on this side over here, because it was going off right about here on this side. This area is and has been connected to an old river that does go through here. Now, again, with an ocean front, having it come in with an oblong shape, we do see from this, obviously, there was a massive wave-like area coming in. And just swept all through that. You can see the curves coming straight in. You can still see how it just swept straight through, how it just went and washed it all through. Came in, still see how it comes through here, flows over everything, just washed it all out and went straight back into the sea. And it's not even just over here either. It comes all throughout here, comes throughout, and even Egypt actually shows this, that they are always spared. Because it just makes this abundant freaking turn right here and just completely just curves, just right into that. All right, and there it is. Like you can see, it just curves right here. So it comes all the way out from here, comes in, crashes through, and completely curves that, completely missing Egypt and the rest of the areas over here. You know, like just completely just sparing them. But this entire area just washed all out. But mind you, they conquered. Hey, how you doing, brother? They conquered all of Libya, ancient Libya. They conquered Europe, parts of Asia Minor. They did a lot of things. So the fact that there is evidence of a myth literally doing the exact same thing. Yeah, I like gaming with my wife. It is fun. My baby loves that. We are now going back into here. We go. I'm gonna go ahead and just hide Google Earth again. There we are. So again, with this, Atlantis was the large island inside the Atlantic Ocean, which lay in front of the mouth of Pillars of Heracles. Their inhabitants became a spiritually ugly race, and for that reason, Zeus and the gods destroyed them by letting the island be swallowed up by the sea. Atlantis was ruled by the Confederation of Kings, and its power extended over Libya as far as Egypt and over Europe as far as Tucson. Tusani. About 8,000 years before the Trojan War, Atlantis attempted to conquer the whole of the Mediterranean world, but was defeated by the Athens of those remote times and its allies. Later, when the gods perceived that Atlantis was inhabited by an evil race, they let the island be destroyed by the third of the floods, which was preceded by the flood in the age of Delusion. This is the Great Flood that they're mentioning. Now, while many are going to be quick about the Atlas Mountain being attributed to the Titan Atlas due to the myth, definition, why they held a false belief or an idea, etc. Without digging further into the truth, please slide 25.2. Now, again, this is pretty much just more of repeats, but here is a source link from a lot of the other areas. The Atlanteans, also applied by the Greeks and the Phoenician colonies along the barbaric coast of North Africa, at the coast, okay, those living near the Atlas Mountains. So here, right off the bat, is what I'm trying to show you guys. So Atlas, King Atlas was given the Atlas Mountains, and they were living along the coast of North Africa. And they just gave you a complete, detailed, word for word area of where it was at, you know? And going off of Mauritania, where King Atlas lived, and where it was at, where they had the Atlas Mountains. Completely detailed for it. Now, here it is. This is a more thorough one. Many great and wonderful deeds are recorded of your state, Athens, and are the Egyptians' histories. But one of them exceeds all the rest in greatness and valor. For these histories tell of a mighty power, Atlantis, which, unprovoked, made an expedition against the whole of Europe and Asia, and to which your city put an end. This power came forth out of the Atlantic Ocean, for in those days the Atlantic was navigable, and there was an island situated in front of the straits, which are by you called the Pillars of Heracles, i.e., the Straits of Gibraltar. The island was larger than Libya and Asia put together, and was the way to other islands, and from these you might pass to the whole of the opposite continent which surrounded the true ocean. So, mind you, again, it says it surrounded the true ocean. Now, in it, around, surrounding it, where this sea was, which is within the Straits of Heracles, is only a harbor, having a narrow entrance, but that other is a real sea, and the surrounding land must be truly called a boundless continent. Now, again, they did say that it had differential erosion, which was the alternating of hard and soft rock layer, which is caused by the sea. But it was then again said that it had an impassable mud shoal. Okay? Okay, now in this island of Atlantis, there was a great and wonderful empire which had rule over the whole island and several others, and over parts of the continents. And furthermore, the men of Atlantis have subjugated the parts of Libya and over parts of the continent, sorry, Africa within the columns of Heracles, and as far as Egypt and Europe, and as far as Tyrrhenia and Italy. This vast power gathered into one endeavored to subdue at a blow our country and yours and the whole of the region within the straits. And then, Ceylon, your country shone forth in the excellence of her virtue and strength among all mankind. She was preeminent in courage and military skill, and was the leader of the Hellenes. And when the rest fell off from her, being compelled to stand alone after having undergone the very extremity of danger, she defeated and triumphed over the invaders, and preserved from slavery those who were not yet subjugated, and generously liberated all the rest of us who dwell within the pillars. But afterwards there occurred violent earthquakes and floods, and in a single day and night of misfortune all of your warlike men in a body sank into the earth. And the island of Atlantis in like manner disappeared in the depths of the sea, for which reason the sea in those parts is impassable and impenetrable, because there is a shoal of mud in the way, and this was caused by the substance of the island. Here you go. Now, mind you, again, it encompasses the veritable ocean, which is the Atlantic Ocean. The three rings of land, the three rings of water, with an oblong shape going exactly 345 miles into one direction. With that, they were all able to do such. According to the Egyptian priests that Athens of old resisted from all of them, from everything. But again, it's just more repeats. And here we go. Ancient Libya. During the Iron Age and classical antiquity, Libya, from Greek, which came from Berber, Libu, referred to modern day Africa west of the Nile River. The Greek and Roman geographers placed a dividing line between Libya/Africa and Asia and at the Nile. In contrast, the areas of the sub-Saharan Africa were known as Ethiopia. Now, again, this was the accounts of Solon, the statesman and poem of history, was 600 years before the Trojan War. There you go. This Egyptian priest knew that humankind was periodically destroyed, either by fire or by water, or by lesser means. And behind the story of Pantheon 3, the Egyptians said, lies the shifting of the celestial bodies around the earth, which caused destruction by fire on its surface at long intervals. When this happened, those living in dry areas or dwelling in mountains suffer destruction more than those living near rivers or by the sea. On the other hand, when the world is flooded, those living in mountains are saved, but those populating the cities near the sea are swept into the streams. Things being of this nature, those living by the Nile were spared when the world was destroyed by fire, and when it was destroyed by water, when they were also spared because rain is scarce in Egypt. The water welling up always from below. In this way, said the Egyptian priests, memories of ancient times could be preserved in this country while all records were destroyed elsewhere. And while in other countries the periodical destruction caused irreparable losses, in Egypt it was possible to keep records of very ancient times, the Alexander Library. This is the reason why, continued the priest, the Greeks could remember just the flood of Delusion, ignoring that many other floods had previously occurred. And this is the very same way that they had lost the memory of that Athens which existed 8,000 years before the Trojan War, which is in its own day said to have taken place around 1200 BCE. On slide 19 through 28, we went over the known locations of Atlantis based on Plato's accounts in the Timaeus and Craitis, Solon who went to Egypt and translated the accounts. The term, again, myth, is also used in the Holy Scriptures, which we went over already in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 4, and we'll turn away from listening to the truth and wander off into myths. This on itself is only supporting the term for much of my discoveries. Using maps and descriptions, we outline the truth behind the story. Atlas, son of Poseidon, king of Mauritania, ancient Libya, was given the mountain of his birth, the Atlas Mountains, and the surrounding area as his fiefdom, modern-day Morocco, while his brother was given the extremity of the land towards the Pillars of Heracles, the Straits of Gibraltar. But again, what was the land that he ruled that was towards the Pillars of Heracles? Going to the later accounts, I believe that this to be the modern day Mauritania, the Eye of Africa is Atlantis. Now we are on the final part, and this is where it's fun. Now we get to go over Atlas. In Greek mythology, Atlas is a titan in Greek mythology condemned to hold up the heavens or sky for eternity after the Titanochemy. Atlas also plays roles in the myth of the two greatest Greek heroes, Heracles and Perseus. According to the ancient Greek Hesiod, Atlas stood at the ends of the earth in the extreme west. Later, he became commonly identified with the Atlas Mountains in northwest Africa and was said to be the first king of Mauritania, modern-day Morocco, and West Algeria, not to be confused with the modern-day country of Mauritania. Atlas was the son of the Titan Iapis in Ocean, Asia, or Clymene. He was a brother to Emetheus and Prometheus. He had many children, mostly daughters, the Hesperides and the Hyades, the Pleiades, and the nymph Calypso, who lived on the island Orgylia. Okay. Atlas brothers, Menonius, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, with the Titan in their war against the Olympians. When the Titans were defeated, many of them, including Menonius, were confined to Tartarus. But Zeus condemned Atlas to stand at the western edge of the world to hold up the sky on his shoulders. Thus, he was Atlas Telamon, enduring Atlas. It became a doublet or the Coeus, the embodiment of the celestial axis which around the heavens revolve. The common misconception today is that Atlas was forced to hold the earth on his shoulders. The classical art shows Atlas holding the celestial spheres, not the terrestrial globe. The solidity of the marble globe born from the renowned Phrynis Atlas may have aided to the conflation reinforced in the 16th century by the developing usage of atlas to describe the corpus of terrestrial maps. The Greek Polydius tells the tale of Atlas and a shepherd encountering Perseus, who turned into stone. Ovid later gives a more detailed account of the incident, combining it with the myth of Heracles, BS. In this account Atlas is not a shepherd but a king. According to Ovid, Perseus arrives in Atlas's kingdom and asks for shelter, declaring that he is the son of Zeus. Atlas, fearful of a prophecy that warned of a son of Zeus stealing his golden apples from his orchard, refuses Perseus's hospitality. In this account, Atlas is turned not just into stone by Perseus, but an entire mountain range. Atlas's head the peak, his shoulders ridges, and his hair woods. So mind you, again, I've already shown you guys on Google Earth what I was showing you. The prophecy did not relate Perseus stealing the golden apples, but to Heracles, another son of Zeus, and Perseus's great grandson. Now, we've already went over that. Yep. Atlas in Greek mythology, the son of the primordial Iapis in the Ocean Clymene or Asia, and brother to Prometheus, creator of humankind, in Homer's Odyssey, Book 1. Atlas seems to have been a marine creature who supported the pillars that held the heaven and earth apart. These were thought to have rested in the sea immediately beyond the most western horizon, but later the name of Atlas was transferred to a range of mountains in northwestern Africa. Atlas was subsequently represented as the king of that district, turned into a rocky mountain by the hero Perseus, who, to punish Atlas for his inhospitality, showed him the Gorgon's head, the sight of which turned men to stone. According to Hesiod's Theogony, Atlas was one of the Titans who took part in the war against Zeus, which, as a punishment, he was condemned to hold aloft the heavens. Many works of art he was representative of carrying the heavens in classical art from the 6th century BCE, or the celestial globe in the Hellenistic and Roman art. Atlas's name is of unsure, probably pre-Greek origin, but the ancient Greeks and Romans seem to have thought it had been derived from a similar sounding Greek root with the name meaning of very enduring. Now, mind you, this also goes back to them being destroyed, just like the Egyptians said, so there's a lot of information that's been wrong. This fully coincides with Atlas' portrayal as an enormous, bearded man, always slightly bent and in pain under the weight of the heavens, usually represented as a globe stretched as with the most famous constellations. Iapis' sons took the opposing sides of the Titanomachy, while Prometheus and Emetheus decided to help Zeus. Atlas and his brother Menonius sided with the Titans. In time, Atlas even managed to become the leader of the rebellion, but that didn't end up too well for him in the long run, since it got him the most severe punishment after the defeat of the Titans. Namely, Atlas was condemned to hold up the heavens for all of eternity, standing at the furthest western edge of the earth near the garden of his daughters, the Hesperides. Some say the sky was placed directly on his shoulders, others say it was more merciful, claiming that Atlas actually holds the two pillars which keeps the earth and sky apart. Now, we've already went over this. That's a repeat. You guys can find on the link the Piovitus Nelson Metamorphosis, book 4, line 604. Now, I'm just going to show you this straight up from here. No, it'd be just easier to just go off of that. There we go. So, mind you, it even said his great beard and hair are forests. His head, the top of a high peak. His shoulders and hands, mountainous ridges. His bones are changed to rocks. Augmented on all sides, enormous height attains his growth. For so he deigned it, ye almighty gods, who now unnumbered stars expand on him, command to rest. Atlas, like I said, becomes a mountain, and we just went over. He's slightly bent with the heavens pushed down onto him. Does this not look exactly as it says? Here's a quick recap. Atlas was condemned to hold up the celestial globe, the sky and heavens upon his shoulders in northwest Africa, ancient Libya, modern day Morocco, Algeria, and Libya, known as Mauritania. Both the Hesperides, who tended Hera's gardens, which extended as far as Mount Atlas, and Gorgons were known to be in the far most west part of the world, in Oceanus, the Atlantic Ocean, or in the midst of it on the rocky island of Sarpedon. See slides 2 through 8. Perseus was given winged sandals, a magical bag known as the Kippuses, Hades' helm of invisibility, and Athena's bronze shield, the Aegeus, an adamantian harp sword, and then flew to the ocean and caught the Gorgons asleep. After killing Medusa, Perseus beheld the frozen bears, polar bears, which are only found in the northern regions of the world, like Norway, Greenland, Alaska, Russia, etc., Canada. And then the crab's bent arms, Cancer the crab, and the tropical Cancer, which was in the same vicinity of each other 2,000 years ago during the time of Perseus, in the time that he went to go kill her. And went into the realm of Atlas, the west realm of the world, which is with the term Ushamini, which was denoted as civilization, which was Africa, Europe, and Asia. The most west part of the world, which was Atlas's condemned parts to be holding up the sky. And that's everything. Well, there you go. I can't believe it. We got through the whole thing. I just want to let you guys know this is everything that we've gone for. This whole thing has been amazing. I hope you guys learned something from this today. Again, this will be one of many PDF files that I will be putting up. This one, again, was just Medusa, Atlas, Perseus, and Atlantis. The next one I'm going to be going over what we discussed with the other Babylonians, like the hairy hero and other various creatures. I hope you guys stay in tune. I'm just going to hop off and I'm going to probably put on some Minecraft. But you guys have a great time and enjoy this beautiful day. I, again, hope you guys learned something. Don't feel afraid to contact me if you guys have any questions. I'm also here on TikTok, but I am putting this up on YouTube and spreading it wherever I can. You guys have a great day. May Ea protect you all. And